Yo, 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 yo. What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Uncommon Commentators. I'm boy Antoine. This is my co host, Garrett. As y'all know, we always chop it up about the basketball world class hoops on this channel. And we got a great show for y'all today. Obviously, we're amidst the free agency, but we're coming back after a little bit of a hiatus. The NBA finals and the NBA draft. So wanted to go ahead and react to those when we had the chance, but can't do that before I talk to my man Garrett. How you been? How was your week? I know you had to fly out of town for a little bit. So I do kind of want to hear about your vacation now that you are back. And I'm glad to have you back. You made it back safely. Mostly that's the most important part. So how you been, man? How was your vacation before we break down this free agency?
Yeah, appreciate it, my brother. Yeah, vacation was good. Fly out of town just to, see some family and stuff.
Mhm.
And like I said, spend time with family and doing other things and just, had to go ahead and recharge myself. But
Mhm.
yeah, I'm back. So just ready to touch up on everything. A lot has taken place over the last 2 weeks. A lot has taken place. And so ready to dissect everything and go into detail.
Gotcha. Yeah, man. That's the crazy part about basketball. Like, yeah, like everyone's always talking about the finals ending, like the season's over, but the shit really goes on year round. It's never stops. It's a news cycle. So we're literally never off the clock. But we can go ahead and start with the end of the season. Gotta give a shout out to the Oklahoma City Thunder. They are the 2025 NBA champions. They in some people's books, you could say they took care of business, but obviously, like they went 7 games, it wasn't that easy. They did have to face a lot of adversity, even with 7 games with the former champions, different Nuggets, and even heading into the game 7, it was really, really close. A lot of people had them as the favorites, just the fact they were in Oklahoma and they have their roster, of course. But everyone knows that the big ass elephant in the room, Tyrese Halliburton, got hurt. I picked the Pacers to beat the Thunder in 7. I'm not gonna lie. I think if they had Tyrese Halliburton, they could have beaten them. I'll say that straight up. Not like to like take it away from Oklahoma or anything like that, but he had 9 points in the first 7 minutes, and when it was tied at at halftime, Indiana was still leading at 48-47, and going into the third quarter, Oklahoma didn't really pull away until the end of the third, going into the fourth. So I think if they had Halliburton, like especially in a game 7 atmosphere where he's passed the test among multiple big games throughout the 2025 playoffs, I think they definitely could have won or at least went to overtime, whatever, with Halliburton. Definitely would have been a whole lot closer than that final score and game 7 in Oklahoma. But of course, I would like a reaction to just Oklahoma's season. A lot of people believe this is the beginning of a dynasty, but of course, it's hard to repeat in the new generation of the NBA. So I did want your thoughts on what Oklahoma did this whole season, from the regular season to the end. And do you think they repeat next year, heading into next season? And we just saw SGA sign a $285 million super max. So it's starting, their whole apron issue, their money issues. So he's gonna be making at one point like 70 million a year, like 1 million per game. So SGA, like, and honestly, he'll be worth every penny. I do think he will be. Like, he did bring them home a championship. He won the MVP scoring title, finals MVP in a ring, all in one year. So how do you feel about the future of the Oklahoma City Thunder, Garrett?
Yeah. So they won fair and square in the finals, and really, it really could have gone to 6 games because they really should have won game 1 because they had that game under their control. But it still went to 7 games. First, I do want to shout out to Tyrese Halliburton, for tearing his right Achilles. I know that really hurt, not just for him and his family and the team, but also for other players, around the league. So I know there was a scary situation, just watching that injury over and over again. But for OKC, I had OKC winning the series. So, as far as how many games it would have took, 6 or 7 games, I think that was my prediction. But the fact of the matter is that OKC, they're built to win multiple championships for me. They have, everything they need to do so. And the fact of the matter is that, like you mentioned, with him signing the new contract extension, because really he honestly could have gotten a lot more if he had waited. So that contract was going to be more than 300. If he would have waited, he could have gotten more, but instead he decided to take less so that the team can continue to improve the roster and make more moves. But to your point, they are going to have money issues, later on. So of course, it's going to be tougher for the front office to think about how they're going to stay, competitive. Obviously, I don't want to get into as far as who could be out the door or anything like that. They just won the finals, but I'm just saying that as of right now, I think they're built to win multiple championships just based on how they're built right now and the assets that they still have. I mean, they still have enough assets to get another big name out there in the market if they choose to do so. I mean, they have so much. Um, but no, I think that how they handled themselves in Game 7 and really throughout the entire series, and honestly, it was a battle. And to be honest with you, I didn't expect it to go 7 games. I was really leaning towards 6, but Indiana they really proved me wrong. And to be honest with you, I think that Indiana, even though I had OKC winning, I think they could have won for sure because, like I
Mhm.
said, it took the 7 games, and it's kind of a similar situation with Indiana when they faced against the New York Knicks. I believe it was in the second round of last year. So where you had Jalen Brunson and other guys go down with injuries. If that team was fully healthy, I think they would beat Indiana. But in
Mhm.
this case, with Halliburton, if he would have stayed healthy, I mean, and yes, we don't know who would have won the finals this year. With Tyrese Halliburton being out, but I'm just saying that if he would have stayed healthy, then it definitely would have been a much better result, and it definitely would have gone down to the last, wire. But like I said, I tip my cap off to Indiana for just sticking to the fight. Taking the 7 games because that's all we want to see is competition, and they gave us that, so we really do appreciate that. But like I said, I think OKC they're built to win multiple championships, so we'll see what happens. This next season to see if they're able to do it again. And for Indiana, I know we'll get into that later, but they have a lot of things to think about because with Tyrese Halliburton being out pretty much the entire next season, and of course they're losing some of their core pieces, so it's going to be tough for them. So like I said, we'll get into that later, but yeah, like I said, tip my cap off to Indiana, and like I said, congratulations to the OKC, they got it done.
Yeah, man, and like it really is remarkable to see how this team came together so young. Even Jalen Williams addressed it at their trophy parade. They said we was too young, like that's how you feel me. And like at least, the fact that they persevered so early, I feel like that was the biggest shocking point throughout the entire season for me. They won like 68 games this year, so they were white hot relatively all year, super polished. Mark Daignault, I gotta give credit to him. I thought Rick Carlisle was the better coach, like straight up. You feel me? Obviously, Rick Carlisle did lose his star player, while Mark Daignault had his full roster. But at the end of the day, you have to win the game regardless of the circumstances, and Mark Daignault still did that. And yeah, I think they have a bright future. They have everything needed to literally repeat next year. I don't see why they can't. I'm not gonna sit on here and try to overanalyze it and make it seem like they don't have, like what you said, a roster that is fit to win multiple championships. They still have the time. As long as they have Chet Holmgren and Isaiah Hartenstein right now, I don't think anyone's going to be able to really stop like that starting five. I know Isaiah can't really spread the floor like that, but he's still athletic enough where he can be in the corner, cut back for SJ on any plays like that. And again, he's athletic enough to crash the glass, fly in, catch offensive rebounds, and really more so about forming a wall, like really the disruption that they provide, having two strong 7 footers like that. I know people's always roasting on Chet for his lanky body, but he was eating on them switches. Anytime like the Pacers are trying to switch him off to try to get like any mismatches or pick and rolls like that, his footwork was honestly incredible to watch like that at 7 foot. Especially having that injury he had a couple years ago with the ligament issues in his toe. He missed his entire rookie year because of that, and he's really bounced back from that. And he's honestly done exactly what he was supposed to. I wouldn't say that's the co-star because some people consider Jalen Williams to be the second best player on the team. But I do think that Chet has solidified himself to be the third star around this big three. And I think, not even I think, like, I think it's a fact that they are the betting favorites to win next year. But I think going into 27, into 28, into 29, these guys are only going to get older and more mature. And I think that's scary for the league. The only thing stopping them is the salary cap. And like, yeah, like how you mentioned, they're only continue to get better. I know you're high on Thomas Sorber. They got him in the draft at like the 16th pick. Like it's absolute steal for them to keep continuing the farm of young talent. I'm still high on Nikola Topic, the rookie from the last draft cycle, the 12th pick. I know he injured himself coming out of Serbia, but I'm still really high on him and what he can do at the point guard position. And that's another 6'6" point guard that they would have on the team who's also a super high level. And I gotta give a shout out to Sam Presti. He finally got to speak a little bit at the post game press conference, and he gave love to Kendrick Perkins. It was pretty cool to see that because Perkins was all over this team. Given credit, of course, he was on the Kevin Durant team with Russell Westbrook, and they were unable to win them a championship back in 2012. So I'm happy for Sam Presti. Most of all, for 13 years later, this guy got back here again and he got it done. He knew how bad it was going to look if he had another core and didn't get it done for a second time. So I'm really happy for Sam Presti. Absolutely. It's hard to dominate as a GM, and he makes it look really, really easy. And that's it, man. Really looking over the horizon. Like I said, they're the betting favorites for next year. No real reason why they can't win it. I'll let you know who their number one option or their number one opponent might be, at least for next season. That's my opinion. Of course, we'll get to that later. But I want to go to our next topic, continuing with the cycle of the offseason. And the second most notable thing that occurred while we were gone was the NBA draft, of course. It went as expected. A lot of people, one of the biggest stories was the whole Ace Bailey thing with him not wanting to go to certain teams and heading up to Utah, and then certain footage coming out of his agent in his camp, and people not think he's they think he's not rolling with the best people to make his career decisions. Even at the draft when he said, I know I have a good team around me, like his family and stuff like that. That's who I had assumed it was immediately. Obviously, that video came out of Omari Sharif Cooper, his agent. That video coming out with him flexing his watch and his ice and wrist and stuff like that. But after that, Ace Bailey has shown nothing but a positive attitude ever since being drafted by the Utah Jazz. And I want to go to Ace Bailey first in particular because he was catching so much negative attention before finally getting picked at that fifth overall spot. And I think he's low-key in one of the biggest spots to succeed this rookie season. I'm really excited about Ace Bailey because I know we wanted to discuss our favorite picks of the draft. That's low-key one of mine with his spot in Utah. I think given the talent on that team, they're still really young if you look around the roster. So it's no one that can really that's really gonna come and really mess up his rookie momentum like that for Ace Bailey. I think Ace Bailey's gonna come in, have a great rookie year. That was my favorite pick out of the whole top 10, honestly. I really liked Ace Bailey going to Utah. He's wearing number 19, and that's super unique. I can't remember the last time a fucking player wore number 19 like that. But yeah, man, Cooper Flag went number one. Dylan Harper went number two. It was expected. Obviously Dylan Harper's mom stole the show. I was watching TMZ last night, and they were still talking about how Maria looked in a black dress. You feel me? Like, she looked pretty fucking good. But I mean, I don't know why people are talking about Dylan Harper's mom so much. Like his dad wasn't an NBA player, man. That shit, it's been like that, man. Come on. He was on the Bulls in Chicago. Ron Harper has like 5 rings. I don't know. I think it's not like he's some non-notable player. You feel me? But how did you feel about the 2025 NBA draft? And who would you say your favorite pick was if you got one off the top of your head?
Yeah, I think it went kind of the way that we thought. I think there were a couple of shock moves that took place that I wasn't really expecting. For example, Hanson Yang to Portland. I didn't
Yeah.
really understand that move because they, just got Donovan Clingan in last year's draft. And then, overall, like I said, I think, the draft went pretty much the way we thought. I think there were a couple guys that, kind of went late and guys that went super early. But I think my favorite pick has to be Carter Bryant. Carter Bryant to San Antonio. I think that was a really good move. I think it just turns up the fit is what I like because
Mhm.
he's a 3-and-D guy. He adds tremendous size. As a player, and then like I said, he's a 3-and-D guy who can shoot the three and very athletic too.
Really
Very
athletic,
athletic.
yeah.
Yeah, and like I said, his defense. I think he can eventually be in a first team or second team All NBA defense. I think he has that kind of ceiling on your defensive end. And like I said, you add that kind of defense to the front court with Wemby. We all know Wemby is going to be a future multi defense player of the year player. So just to add that into the front court, so we know the Spurs, they're still figuring things out. Obviously, they're trying to compete. Um, but and Antoine, you know this, but it'll be interesting to see what they decide to do, or how they're going to figure everything out between De'Aaron Fox and Stephon Castle, who was last year's pick rookie of the year, rather, and then you add
Mhm.
Dylan Harper as far as how they're going to work, manage to make it work with all those three guys. So that'll be definitely something to be on the lookout for. But yeah, I think Carter Bryant was my favorite pick overall in the draft. So
Mhm. Yeah, man, like, yo, it was a pretty good lottery in my opinion. Like, it was a pretty good crop of talent. Like, Conkinepo going to Charlotte. I think they need shooting. He's gonna slide right in there between Lonzo Ball and Melo, and Brandon Miller, right at that shooting guard spot. I really do look forward to what Conkinepo's gonna do. I don't think that was too high of a pick. Like him going that high. I think that was just right for him being a top 5 pick, literally right outside the top 3. Like I said, Ace Bailey went right after him at number 5. Trey Johnson, he's a lot of people's favorite for rookie of the year because, like, just his scoring prowess in Washington, especially with them losing Jordan Poole to New Orleans like that, letting him go rather. I think that's really given Trey Johnson the green light, at least his rookie year, to just like run off ball all day, like stay on those corners. Like, and he is a great shot creator as well. Just has to just tune his efficiency a little bit, but his scoring explosions were among the best in that entire draft class. Jeremiah Fears went to New Orleans with the 7th pick. Igor Demin, this shit hurt, but I mean the
yeah,
Hawks.
that was a shock too. I didn't expect him to go up that high. Honestly, I didn't expect him to go that high. But that's what I say.
Mhm.
You'll see stuff like that where it's just a shocker. But yeah,
Right. This shit pissed me off, man. Like I heard Adam like, yeah, and I just like it just this shit pissed me off, man. Because I really thought the Hawks were gonna get 6'9" point guard. I was a fool for thinking he was gonna fall that far. But even then, to
mhm.
get to the Hawks, this is really in the draft instead of free agents. They were winners of the draft. Of course, we walked away with a 23 overall pick. That was drafted by the Pelicans and conveyed to the Atlanta Hawks via way of trade. And we got Asa Newell off that, the former UGA Bulldog, averaged 15 points, about 7 rebounds a game if you round up. But the biggest part of that was that the Hawks. It's
You
crazy because
talk
the new.
about a finesse like
Mhm, literally,
twice. Come
for
on
real.
now.
I just think they like us, man. I think when Atlanta comes across their phones, like I think they have a special relationship with us, man. We gave them DeJounte. He got injured, unfortunately. There was nothing we could have done about that. It's just part of
Yeah,
basketball. So he's still a star player. He's ready to bounce back next year alongside Zion. So, and getting to that, they now have Derek Queen on the team, and getting Derek Queen, they gave the Atlanta Hawks their top 10 unprotected first round pick.
it really could turn to be top five. I mean, it
Mhm.
really can. And because I'm even trying to wrap my head around it as far as why would they do that? Because earlier today, um, more details had surfaced of how all that came about. And what I
Mhm.
read was that Bryson Graham, who's our vice president of basketball operations,
Mhm.
literally had talked to
Joe
Troy.
Dumars.
Yeah. Well, not Joe, but Troy Weavers. Basically,
Mhm.
they were going back and forth, and Weavers had mentioned like, "Hey, we'll give it to you unprotected," and then Bryson was like, "Uh, unprotected," and like he had to like confirm it like multiple times just to make sure like he's hearing it right, and like they're
Right.
trying to like understand like, okay, you're giving us an unprotected pick for next year's draft. So, and I also read like even Ansi Sala, our general manager, even reached out to Joe Dumars do just to confirm it himself, and that's literally what happened. So the fact of the matter is that okay, we end up having to like confirm it multiple times just to make sure like we're on the same page and it actually happened. So I guess I mean obviously Joe Dumars thinking that this team is a playoff team, so they're not really that much worried of where the pick could land. Now, I guess they're comfortable with it being a lottery pick since we gave them, a top 13 pick. I don't know, but the fact of the matter is just that we know they're in the West. Obviously, that's the tougher conference, and when you look at the roster up and down, it's not really that good of a team. I guess I mean you could make the play. I mean, you could make the play in, best case scenario, but I don't think this is a team that's going to make the playoffs. I mean, they have solid guys, but guys like Zion, we know he's, injury prone, so he's not a guy that's going to play, 90 or 80% of the season.
Mhm.
And, you still have DeJounte Murray who's still recovering, from his Achilles injury. I believe that's what he suffered. And when you look at other guys, I mean, these aren't guys that's going to, knock off, you know, Dallas or Houston or anything like that. So you're still anticipating that this team is still going to be bad, but no, I mean, regardless though, I think that it'll be a lottery pick regardless. But the fact of the matter is just that you made it fully unprotected, and that's just something that you just can't, you know, that's something you just can't say no to. But it's crazy.
Yeah, man. Every single mock draft I've looked at has the Hawks, whether it's Tankathon, NBA Draft Room. The pick doesn't go lower than fucking 10. You feel
Yeah,
me? So the
yeah,
fact that like we'd even get two lottery, like yo, because even Onsi Sala even said he said at the post game, it was Asa Newell's introductory press conference. He said giving up the lottery pick definitely hurt a little bit. It was aggravating. It's like that's a lottery pick, you know? And like, who knows? Derek Queen. I mean, the Hawks, like I said, the
hmm
Hawks drafted Boras, so they traded him. The Hawks drafted Pau Gasol, they traded Pau Gasol. You feel me? So there's been times where it's blown up in the Hawks' faces, you feel me? But at this time, nah, like we'll see what Derek Queen does in New Orleans. He looked great at the University of Maryland. I thought he looked phenomenal. Had a really big tournament, hit some big shots in the tournament as the star of the Terrapins. And um, I think coming to New Orleans will be there in a big spot. Obviously, like they're kind of a losing franchise, so there won't be too much pressure on Derek to come in and make a big impact out the gate. I think he can just really come in and just learn. And just be next to Zion. I really think Derek has a good work ethic, and I think that's gonna take him above his ceiling, at least his ceiling in New Orleans. We'll see how it fares. We'll see how they utilize him in the system with Willie Green. Willie Green really didn't get to use any of his team last year, so I really hope he gets to really figure out the system he wants to run with Herb Jones, with Trey Murphy, and now Derek Queen. And for us, like I said, most of the draft picks I've seen have had the Hawks. That Pelicans pick rather at fifth pick, at the fourth pick. I personally did not know that the Tyrant Stokes, he's in the 2026 draft now. He will be committing soon. Warming up to Kentucky, because it was not a three-man draft, not really lazy, but it was really had those three solidified future stars with Cameron Boozer, Darren Peterson, and of course AJ DeBanza. Mikael Brown is doing amazing right now. I think they're having like a U19 tournament. It's something like that they have going on right now. And I heard Mikael Brown is doing great from all the scouts I've seen. Sam Vecini, everyone thinks Mikael Brown is doing good. He's on the FIBA U19 team along with AJ DeBansa and all those kids. So I saw him at Overtime Elite when he was down here playing for the Cold Hearts. And is an amazing point guard for certain. So the 2026 draft does have a lot of prospects in it. Good forwards, good guards, good centers as well. And for the Hawks to even be in the running to be able to get any of those picks. And I mentioned Tyron Stokes because it was really like a three-man solidified star draft. He was the number one overall pick of the 2027 draft and all of those mock drafts and stuff. But now he's around number 3, number 4, number 5 in the 2026. And the 2026 is super stacked. The fact you have Darren Peterson and AJ DePansa in the same draft is pretty ridiculous. You feel me? So the Hawks are really fortunate to even be in a running to come away with a top 5 pick out of that draft. And if they get a top 4, if they can land Tyran Stokes, who's a great power forward, small forward at 6'7", real physical, super athletic, and in my opinion, a bona fide future star. It's already written in the stars. I think he'll be one of those names in the league in the future, along with Cameron Boozer, AJ DeBansa, and Mikael Brown, and Darren Peterson. I think those 5 guys are going to be like running the league in the future, at least some of the big names for certain. And yeah, like I said, like the Hawks actually have a chance to get one of those players, hopefully. Especially given the Buck. I will get to why on the Milwaukee side that they might not be that good this year either. But to end with free agency, I mean not free agency, the draft. The 2025 draft was a good draft. To rate it out of 10, because people were shitting on the 2024 NBA draft last year when the Hawks had the number 1 pick. I give this draft about an 8, 8, 9, only because the stars at the top, I like the dudes at the top. I do think they're gonna go on to be stars like VJ Edgecombe in Philadelphia. I think everyone was right to compare him to Dwayne Wade. I think he's super athletic, has a little bit of a better jump shot than Wade did coming out of Marquette. But I do think that VJ is going to shine in Philadelphia, especially with Tyrese Maxey already developing, and they're going to be that future backcourt. Dylan Harper in San Antonio, like Garrett mentioned, I have no fucking clue how, like, if even like to address that. Like, I think like maybe they trade De'Aaron to get the contract off and like to grow with Stephon and Dylan. I think that they're both too talented to give up like that. If I had to choose, I'm choosing Dylan over Stephon. But it's crazy to say that because Stephon just won Rookie of the Year. So I think they're better off choosing potential rather than the product that's about to be 30 years old in a few years. So if they had to choose how to navigate through that, I think they should try to send De'Aaron away to try to get some future picks, honestly. Something like that. A team that can really use a point guard that's in a win now position that doesn't really need their picks like that. De'Aaron really only went to San Antonio because his girlfriend, well, his wife, is from the city. So he didn't mind going there if he had to leave Sacramento, which I'm still surprised that he did, to be quite honest with you. But that's my answer to that. I think that De'Aaron might traded something like that, and they move forward with Castle and Harper. And yeah, the number 1 overall pick to end on that, with my sentiment on the 2025 draft, Cooper Flags in Dallas. You know, like I said on the last one, I was me and Wiley that time around. I told Wiley that this kind of reminds me that it's kind of as if like if Detroit would have chosen Carmelo back in 2003. You feel me? Because they went on to win a championship that year. But they were a good team in the top 2. They had the 2nd overall pick that year. Of course, they chose Darko Milicic, who, I mean, you know, he's an NBA champion. What can you say? Whatever, you know. But I think if they would have chosen Carmelo, it would have had the similar effect to what Cooper's about to do for Dallas right now. Only that Cooper's going to bring a little more defense out the gate than a young Carmelo would have at the similar age of 19. So, really excited for Cooper in Dallas, learning from future Hall of Famers literally out the gate. We know Kyrie Irving has got a 3-year extension, so he'll probably retire a Maverick. He's pretty comfortable there after the whole, Brooklyn stuff, all that. He's finally comfortable in a place even with Luca gone. So I think Kyrie will stay. They got Klay Thompson now, another future Hall of Famer. And of course, Anthony Davis, he has to stay healthy. I pray that he does. He was looking great before getting that abdominal injury with the Mavericks this year. So Cooper's going to learn from AD. So it's going to be really interesting to see how they put him at the small forward, power forward, whatever they choose to do with Cooper Flag. But what was your ending remark on the 2025 draft? And what do you think's going to happen? Like, you think they want to be future stars or anything like that?
Yeah, this was a loaded draft class, so I expect a lot of players to, achieve a lot of accolades, throughout their NBA career. Cooper Flag, Dylan Harper, even guys that were picked a little bit later in the lottery.
Mhm.
So yeah, I expect a lot of guys to, be real contributors, to this league. And even if we're not talking about, I'm just not really talking about guys that can, you know, become future all stars. I'm just talking about guys that can be key, role players,
Pieces. Right.
for their respective teams. So, it'd be interesting. But Brooklyn, they had a handful of picks in this draft. So, you're hoping that they at least, nail, two, two or three, out of those picks that they got. But I think Danny Wolf was a steal. Another pick that I like. Danny Wolf was definitely high on my board. I was hoping that we would have got him, but I love Asa Newell for what he brings, so I'm not mad at that at all. But Danny Wolf was a sneaky pick for them, so I like his fit in Brooklyn. But yeah, like I said, this was a loaded draft class. I would give it same grade, either an 8 or a 9. But
Mhm.
yeah, so it's definitely a lot of talent that came out of that draft class. So I'm just excited to see what the young guys, do, in their first year in the NBA.
Yeah, man, for real. And like to end it, if I give a way too early pick for rookie of the year, I'm looking at this board. Like I said, I really think Trey Johnson's gonna do really, really good in Washington. But I'm rooting for Ace Bailey, man. I'm rooting for Ace Bailey to have a strong first year in Utah, come out, maybe average like 14, 13 points a game, show his defensive prowess to that big 6'9", 6'9" body with a great wingspan, super athletic, tall build. He was supposed to be the third overall pick before any of that not working out for the team stuff happened. So we'll see how it goes, man. But if I had to give my way too early pick, they haven't even played summer league yet. You feel me? But yeah, I'm rooting for Ace Bailey. I really want him to shine in Utah. And I think they're gonna give him the ball early. I think VJ Edgecombe, he's gonna have to earn it, with playing with Paul George and really a solidified team in Philadelphia who were devastated by injuries. Dylan Harper, he's gonna do good in San Antonio out the gate. I feel that. Cooper, we'll see how they utilize him and how many shots he might get. We'll see how Kyrie comes back, but Klay Thompson's gonna get his shots. AD's gonna get his shots, and I do think Cooper probably average around like 12 to 13 points a game. It's gonna be the defense for Cooper out the gate that's gonna impress people, I feel. And yeah, man, my sleeper. Um hmm. I kind of like what you said, man. Like with Danny Wolf at the 27th pick going to the Brooklyn Nets, you feel me? So I do think that whole crop that they got, Ben Steph, Danny Wolf. I mean, they had like 5 first round picks, but they drafted a whole fucking a whole team, a whole 5
Yeah,
basically.
yeah.
So I really enjoyed this draft. It was really funny. It was cinematic as always. Always love seeing the dreams come true right out the gate. And I look forward to seeing what this draft class does every year. Always my favorite part of the year, to me personally, the NBA draft. Moving on to the busiest time of the year in the NBA, to be quite honest, at least in my opinion, because that's when the phones ring the absolute most. We were going to react to some of the biggest acquisitions of free agency. Now, obviously, there's been a lot of teams have had a lot of movement. I guess I'll go ahead and start out with one who I think has made the most movement, in my opinion, or at least one of the biggest winners, consensus biggest winners of the 2025 free agency cycle, and that is the Atlanta Hawks. You feel me? So a lot of people don't realize.
Wiley, I know he's listening. He knows what the deal is. He knows what the
Mhm.
deal is.
For sure. I mean, you couldn't expect nothing less when you saw the Kristaps trade, and they made not one but two more moves after that. So I'm gonna go ahead and break down the Hawks. It was massive for them when they brought in the 7 foot NBA champion, Kristaps Porzingis. So obviously, everyone knows what the deal is with his injuries here and there. He will be in and out of the lineup, but he did play over 40 games the last 3 seasons. So last year, he dealt with an undisclosed, it was like an upper respiratory illness. We kind of didn't really know what it was like that, but he was healthy enough to play in the playoffs a little bit when they did need him the most. That was the 2024 run. And yeah, man, I think that he's always done his job when he's been in the right system. Of course, he was on the Mavericks and the Wizards and stuff like that. But when he was in New York, when he was in Boston, like, I think like when he's in the right system, when he could shine the most, even at his natural position of the four instead of the five, I think Kristaps is great on any team, regardless of how many games he plays. And we got him on a 1 year deal at 30 million. 1 year, we got him coming from the Boston contract, the 2 years for 60 million. So even if the Hawks, even if it's somehow, God forbid, does not work out, they can let him go and let him walk in free agency. Don't got to do a buyout on a big contract, anything like that. And we got Kristaps, which was a massive thing just alone, because being able to have a solidified 40% 3 point shooter who's 7'2" that can run pick and fades, run pick and roll with Trey Young like that. It's just like the combination is crazy, and we know stops can't catch lobs here and there. I don't think Trey's gonna risk him that much. I'll definitely use him as a shooter more than a lob threat, seeing how he still has so many other players for lob. But that was massive. And then they doubled down by signing Nikhil Alexander Walker, one of the most sought after guards on the free agency market this summer. 4 years, $62 million for Nikhil Alexander Walker with an annual salary of 15.5 million. So not hurting the Hawks too much to keep the defensive stalwart on the team, in my opinion. And he shoots a smooth. I think Nikhil shot like 37% from three this year. So he's getting better as a shooter with his offense. And we know everyone only improves offense playing alongside Trey Young, hence Dyson Daniels and Terrence Mann before he got traded to Brooklyn in that Kristaps trade. And yeah, man, and to end on that with shooting, they signed Luke Kennard as well. The fact they even got Luke Kennard, one of the best, undisputed best 3 point shooters in the entirety of the NBA, is amazing. And it really shows you the aggressiveness. Like he was probably at the top of their list. They got him on a 1 year, $11 million deal. So Nikhil, he's for the future. They're gonna test out Luke Kennard because we can get a lot of shooters on the team. And we're gonna test out Kristaps to see how he fares in his health this year. I think the Hawks, they did it great, not to mention their draft pick. So, I mean, looking at all this rosters, like, their top eight of Dyson Daniels, Trey Young, Zachary Rusachet, Jalen Johnson, Onyeka Okongwu, Kristaps Porzingis, Luke Kennard, Nikhil Alexander Walker. You can do five out with that lineup. You can do small ball. You can do traditional tall ball and still do five out with Kristaps. We can run Jalen at the 3, Onyeka at the 4, Kristaps at the 5, and we can put Dyson at the 1, 6, 7 if Trey's not here somehow. I mean, we could it adds so much versatility that the Hawks did not have before. And they were already maximizing what they had with their rock. Onyeka was learning to shoot threes. Like Jalen was getting more ball handling opportunities. But now they have even more resources that can elevate all of their games. So how do you feel about the moves the Atlanta Hawks have made? And where do you put them next year in an injury-riddled Eastern Conference?
Oh, we're gonna be top four for sure. Top three, I'm aiming. But I think honestly, Salah, he's done a tremendous job, even though that Trey Young, assisted in recruiting Luke Kennard and Alexander Walker. But the fact of the matter is just that honestly, Salah, he came in and did an excellent job of just putting this team into, and really, this is the first time, that a lot of us can really say the Hawks are legitimate, contenders, in the
Contenders.
East. that's something that you can't, as a Hawks fan, you haven't been able to say that in forever. I mean, the last time the Hawks won a championship was when we were, the St. Louis Hawks, and none of us was even thought of. So the fact
Not
of
even
the matter is
playing.
that you are a legitimate, contender in the East. Now, of course, we had to get through, Cleveland and New York, and of course, that conversation is for another time. But I'm just saying, when you look at the roster, the way it's constructed, this is a championship contending team, and of course, it's a win-win situation when it comes to Porzingis because of the fact that hey, if he's able to play at least half a season or more, then that's a major win. You're hoping that he's healthy enough to, help us get through the playoffs. That's what you're hoping for. And of course, I'm pretty sure the medical staff will manage, his health throughout the season. But like I said, even if things don't go well, you could, trade him at the trade deadline to get another upgrade elsewhere, or you still keep him and let his contract expire at the end of the season. So it's a win-win situation. So it's not like you're tied to him on long-term contract. So which is good. Nikhil Alexander Walker, I think that was the biggest acquisition because of the fact that you have him on a very good contract, on a very good deal, and he brings a lot of versatility in the backcourt. Yes, we know Trey and Dyson. That's going to be the starting two, but you have Nikhil coming off the bench, like you say, shot I think 37% from three. A guy that plays tremendous defense, and I
Mhm.
think he can play just as well. From a defensive standpoint, I think he plays just as well as Dyson Daniels. And just to think about the defensive presence not just from Dyson and Alexander Walker alone, as far as what those two guys can do. I'm pretty sure 10 times out of 10, Quinn is going to play both of those guys together. But just imagine, like you said, the defensive versatility that Quinn and his staff could put together. Just thinking of Dyson at the one, the kid at the two, yeah, Zach at the three. Then you can play both Okongwu, Chris Patch, at the 4 and 5, or you can go a little bit bigger than that with JJ at the three, and I think Porzingis will fare better at the four, and then Okongwu at the five. But like I said, you just switch those things up. So I'm just saying with Nikhil, his versatility is you're able to do a lot more things. So that's what I love about him. And then of course the Hawks, they needed to add shooting. So adding one of the best 3-point shooters in the league and Kennard, that was definitely a win. So and you only have him for a year, so which is not bad at all. So we know the Hawks. One of the things that's been talked about when their season ended is that either you're going to get a star player as far as maybe like a Laurie marketing type of player, just to throw an example. This was before the season ended, or you go out and you basically upgrade your bench, and that's what they went to. They got depth with Walker, and then you had Kennard, and then of course you have Ace and Newell, your draft pick at number 23rd in the draft, and you like I said you had Chris Porzingis. So I think this is a legitimate contending team in the East, and to be honest, there's no reason why this team isn't or shouldn't be a top four seed due to the simple fact that you have other teams that are not going to start the year well, meaning Indiana, of course, like we talked about earlier, they lost, Tyrese Halliburton, and they lost Miles Turner to the
Hmm.
Milwaukee Bucks, which was a complete shock. We were all expecting he was going to come back to Indiana, but that was really the story. But obviously, it didn't turn out that way. And then even for Milwaukee, after they got Miles Turner, they end up having to waive Damian Lillard and stretch his contract. So they're in dead cap money. And even that, we don't even know if Giannis is going to be in a Bucks jersey to start the season off, because right now it seems that he's going to make a decision somewhere in August or September to decide if he's officially on board or if he decides to leave. But I'm just saying that the East has gotten a little bit more wide open for the Hawks to sneak up there in the top three or top four. And also even Boston as well. I forgot to mention them. Obviously, they lost, Porzingis to us, and then of course they traded Drew Holiday just to get out of the second apron, and then
Luke Cornett.
Jason Tatum, and then Jason Tatum, he's not going to start the year off playing either. So Boston, they're going to struggle right out the gate too. So that's another reason why Atlanta can definitely be up there for sure. So, like I said, the East has gotten a lot more wide open this year. So, I think is going to be even more interesting because not only the East has gotten a little bit tougher per se, but also out on the West Coast, right? When you look at the Rockets, for example, a lot of people have said Atlanta is a winner, but also Houston is a winner as well because we know they just got Kevin Durant. They added Dorian Finney-Smith. They re-signed Fred Van Vliet and Jabari Smith Jr. And they also got Clint Capella to upgrade their bench as well. And they got back Steven Adams. So a lot of things have taken place, over the past few days. But in particular for Atlanta, there's a lot to look for this team, and I'm just really excited of what takes place. So the only thing that I'm just hoping is for Kristaps Porzingis to stay healthy. I'm not expecting him to play all 82 games. I'm hoping that he'll play at least 50% of the season or more. That's the only thing I'm hoping for. But yeah, this team is definitely on the rise. And like I said, just to say that we are, title contending team, I think that's, very fortunate for, us to say. So we'll just hope and see, what they're able to do throughout the season. But there's a lot to look forward to. So I can't wait.
Yeah, man. I mean, I'm looking at the tracker right now. Shout out to Clint Capella. He's officially out of here. Just went back to his original team of the Houston Rockets, where he came in 2015 NBA draft. Shout out to Capella. He signed for a 3-year, $21 million deal. It goes to show you, though, like our suspicions were confirmed. So whatever, man. You don't got to be a scout to see he was declining. He just got 22 million this summer from the Hawks in his last year. Now he has to play 3 seasons to try to make one of those years. That lets you know, like, this thing, because he's making 7 million a year now. For those of y'all who don't, can't add that up, but it's still a good deal. He still getting paid millions of dollars to play basketball. But at 30 years old, he had a rapid decline. 31 now for Clint Capella. Yep, like we did say, Kyrie Irving did sign a 3-year extension with the Mavericks. Miles Turner did leave the Bucks, and that's the next team I wanted to talk about. Damian Lillard, they waived him. Damian's not on the team right now as he rehabs an Achilles injury. Like that really. I mean, he had what, like 113 million left on the deal. It's
Yep.
like 22 million a year that they got off, and they didn't even want to take a risk about him not being the same, about the rehab taking longer. They wanted to get the money out of your ASAP to cushion the blow of signing Miles Turner and try to get somebody else, if possible, somebody active, obviously. But Giannis himself, in a deleted tweet, and he put the tweet said, "I don't know what the fuck's going on." Basically, like that's really what it said in a joking
And
way.
just to add context, he wasn't pleased about that move either. Me and
Yeah.
Giannis. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man. And like they're like, and now it's getting to the point where like they might be going behind. Obviously, they did not inform him that they were going to do that because they know he would have contested it immediately, leaving him as the only star caliber All NBA player in Milwaukee. I'll be real. I thought Damian was going to retire a buck. He worked so hard to get out of Portland. We know he originally wanted to go to. He originally wanted to go to Miami, but they couldn't get the deal done, unfortunately. So he did go to Milwaukee. Now he just tears Achilles in the first round, and it's just, I mean, there were reports that the Warriors were reaching out to him. Damian's 35 now, man. I get it. The NBA is different now. These dudes, it's not like in the 80s where they retire at 34 and stuff like that. But like, how much longer do you think Damian has in his prime? And how do you think Miles Turner does on the Bucks? Like, do you like the acquisition for Milwaukee?
Well, you know, like I always say, the NBA is a cold business. And from what I've heard, that Damian Lillard, he wasn't aware of what was going on or how this was going to turn out. So he was just as shocked as anyone else about how he had to leave Milwaukee. But with him being at 35 years old, obviously you're getting to the point where, I don't know what's on his mind, but when you're at 35, I think you're still at the point where you want to compete, but also where you want to win. So I'm pretty sure that Damian Lillard, even though things didn't end well in Milwaukee, I'm pretty sure he wants to go to a team where he feels like he can win. Now, as far as where that would be, whether that is in Golden State. I'm pretty sure the Miami Heat will be involved because they tried to get him before. Or he could go to the Lakers. Who knows? I'm just throwing out, some teams out there. But I think that's where, he wants to be. But then again, they stretch his, money out over the next 5 years, I believe. So who knows? So I'm just, assuming of what he wants to do, at his age right now. Because you could say the same thing for a lot of players that are around his age and that they're still, competing, to try to win. So I think that's what he wants to do. Now,
I know that ain't who I
as
think it
far
is.
as
I
soon as
was
I'm
gonna
about to
say,
say it,
look,
I knew you
one
eventually.
as
person,
soon
look,
as soon as I'm about to see that.
look. I just real quick, one person who ain't mad is Damian Lillard.
Oh,
I will
I
say
know
that.
he's not mad. I know he's
I
not
will
mad.
say that for because he gets to pick where he wants to go at this point now,
Yeah.
and you still get your money.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, my bad. Go on, dog.
Oh no, you
No,
good.
no.
You good. No, you good,
I was
man.
gonna ask, do you think he's the same coming back at 35, 36
Hell
off
no,
an
not after
Achilles?
no. Hell no. I've had an Achilles tear. Nobody's the same after an Achilles tear. Because there's so much that goes. Oh no, I at least show my. So there's there's a lot that goes on after you tear your Achilles because the easiest part for anybody that tears their Achilles, especially if they're active, is the physical portion. You're going to get through the physical portion because you want to get back to doing whatever it was. At the very least, you want to get back to be able to walk and run. Like I had to learn how to walk and run after tearing my Achilles. So,
Mhm.
but me knowing that I wanted to be back in the gym, be active still, like that's the motivation that pushes you through. Now, the hard part is the mental portion because you're thinking, what if I tear this again? What if something happens? That's the part that's always going to take the longest because um, when you're even after you feel like you've recovered, like once you start to push it, it gets fatigued quicker. So you have to endure that portion. And it's a constant back and forth until you get to, until time passes and it's like it's not a thought anymore. Like every now and again, my surgically repaired Achilles will have its moments, but for the most part, I'm like, hey, I can go out here and I can go out here and fucking squat 315 pounds, no problem, because I've worked my way back into it. So,
Ah,
so that's going to be
Hmm.
like, yeah, everybody that's torn their Achilles, JT, Halliburton, Dame, like none of them are going to come back the same. It's just more so they're going to have to figure out how they're going to come back from their injuries. The the better part for JT and Halliburton is they're a lot younger than Dame is. For Dame, you're on the I guess you can say the back end of your career. So you have to figure out, okay, how much longer am I going to continue to do this? So
And
Yeah.
like with that being said, where do you think? Because like I said, the Golden State Warriors are reported to have the front runner right now, but a lot of people don't think that works out with two 6'3" guards in the same backcourt, both above the age of 35. Well,
Right.
Damien's 35, but Damien's about to be 30. Steph's about to be 38 next year. And like, how do you think? Where do you think he ends up in this situation, or where do you think would be the best situation for him?
I mean, he could fit anywhere. If we want to be honest, he can fit anywhere. His game, he can tailor his game because he can shoot. He shoots very well. The thing is, you're not gonna you're not gonna see him necessarily drive a lot.
Mhm.
So he's gonna. I think he'll have to figure out those. He'll have to pull a Carmelo and work that mid range. It's either he's gonna work the mid range or he's gonna stay outside beyond the arc. That's just me. And then he'll pick and choose when he wants to take it to the rack. Um, as far as teams are concerned, man, shit. Again, he can fit anywhere. So it just depends on where he wants to go. Miami, like you said, Miami was mentioned, but I think that of course that was before he got to Milwaukee. I don't know if that's if Miami's still on the board, or I don't know if Miami's still on the board for him or Dame is on the board for Miami. I mean, I'm to be honest, if I'm Miami, I give him a buzz. Uh,
Put Tyler at the 2, Damian at the 1.
I mean, you could.
I mean, yeah, like
I mean,
I'm just
yeah,
really
I've been say if Tyler Hero's gonna be absolutely. Dame at the
That
one,
would be
Tyler
that
at
would
the
be
two.
that would be the logical choice. So
Yeah,
Mm.
that's a no brainer there. Denver might be a good choice.
Mhm.
gotta
But
be a
with
sneaky
Jamal
good
Murray,
move.
like it just
As I
depends. Like, is he gonna play? So he's gonna be the point guard. Like he's 6'3", and like especially coming off the injury, like being the shooting guard, like that's just more he has to run around to get away from a bigger defender. So I just think like he has to be the point guard. Either way, like it's gonna be difficult because he
I
has
mean,
to,
his game's going to change. His game's going to change regardless of
right?
how we want to fathom. Like because we look at Dame, a lot of us look at Dame as the Portland Dame that we've saw throughout the years, and of course we know we're not getting that Dame. We can't get that Dame back. I mean he can rev that shit up for a couple of games, a couple of
Yeah.
games here and there, but overall, like of course, you get older, your body, your body wears and tears. Um,
Mhm.
but yeah, if he's
9-time All
willing
Star.
to, if he's willing to, the thing is, if he's willing to come off the bench, then yeah, he can go anywhere.
Because it's just like he was still playing at a pretty high level. Like even this
Yeah,
year, he was averaging 25 points and 7 assists a game this year.
but
Like,
the main question is going to be okay, how much longer do you want to play?
mhm.
That's going to be the main question. So, how much longer do you want to play? And is a NBA championship what you're willing to? Are you still willing? Are you still trying to win the championship? Because if you still trying to win the championship, then sacrifices will have to be made. But if you trying to get this money, then shit, go get your money and fucking do whatever it is. Be a legend at the bank.
Yeah,
Right. No,
yeah,
I get it. Nah, like, yeah, you're right, man. Like that was one of the biggest moves of free agency. Damian did get waived. Outside of that, like I said, it's looking at the free agency tracker. We know that DeAndre Ayton just signed to the Lakers. It's not officially
Mhm.
signed yet, but he has committed. Therefore, at 27 years old, he's averaging 16 points and 10 rebounds for his career. So
And
I think
they resigned Jackson Hayes,
to a 1 year
which
deal that literally
yeah,
happened.
I didn't understand. I don't understand that one. But
Me,
that's
yeah.
I think that's kind of desperation. I think he'll be the third string. I think they're gonna keep their eyes out for a real solidified second string. Hayes just doesn't have the physicality needed to really be the center in the to play the 5 in the NBA. I feel like he averaged 4.8 rebounds last year, but it's like it's just his technical skill. Like he isn't really good at boxing out. He doesn't have like the frame to be able to get in like as a 5, box out defensively and grab a rebound to do it consistently like that. So, yeah, man. Like
But
I
Denver made some moves.
yeah,
Denver
yeah.
made Denver
Yes,
made
they
some
did.
really good moves.
Mhm. They
That
did
that trade for
actually.
Cam Johnson, that's big because
Michael
now
Porter Jr.
Michael Porter for Cam Johnson, perfect trade. I would do that trade 1,000 times. over and over.
Do you
You
think
bring
that PJ, like, do you think he just might have been hurt during the playoffs? Because I think if he was
even
averaging like
before.
18 points and 7 rebounds in the regular season, I
I
think he
mean,
was playing a little hurt
he came to Denver hurt. He came to Denver.
in the
He's
draft.
been
Yeah.
yeah. He came to Denver hurt. So, but also like his game has evolved a little bit, but not to the point where it's like, all right, we want to keep you. But also, he needs to learn. He needs to evolve his game from a passing standpoint. Because anytime you
Mm.
see him get that, anytime somebody passes the ball, that bitch is going up to the rim 9 times out of 10. So, and I mean, hell, him going to Brooklyn, great place because now you can get all the fucking shots you want. It's Brooklyn. So, but for Denver getting Cam Johnson, I love that move. I love that move. That you bring back Bruce Bowen. Uh, who else they bring in? It's
They
two
brought
others
in
that.
Bruce Brown and Tim
I mean,
Hardaway
sorry,
Jr.
Bruce Brown. Yep,
They
Tim
did.
Hardaway
They did.
Jr.
Now they did trade for Jonas Valanciunas, but that's kind of on
Yes,
hold right now because he could be on the verge on the buyout and play over in Europe. But that's
From
not
the overseas,
confirmed
bro.
yet.
but
But
if they're able to get Valanciunas, that is perfect because now
yeah,
you have a backup center for Joker, or you can play them side by side.
Mhm. Mhm.
I did want to circle back to the Miles Turner to Milwaukee.
For
Yeah,
sure.
I think the acquisition was good because of the fact that Miles Turner, I do believe he is an upgrade over Brook Lopez, who signed a contract with the
The
Clippers.
Clippers.
But just to get to a bigger point is that yes, it was a good move, and uh, NBA senior insider Brian Windhorst, he pretty much hit this on the nail. Um, it was a good move, but at the same time, it doesn't move the needle for Milwaukee to be a championship contending team because we know they're not the same team that they used to be when they won the championship a few years back. They're nowhere near that. So even though that the pairing of Giannis and Turner is enticing, I guess even really, I think it's more enticing from a defensive standpoint because Giannis, he's a former defensive player of the year, and Miles Turner, he is a tremendous shot blocker. But you can say offensively, yes, they mesh pretty well just on paper. But just to get to a bigger point is that the fact that matters is just that this move doesn't move the needle, and who knows? We just have to wait for at least a few more months, I guess, to see if Giannis is fully committed or if he's going to say, you know what, I tried my best, I've given him a shot, and we're not seeing it eye to eye. It's time for me to, pack my bags and go elsewhere. And to my point, like I said before, he didn't like the move waiving Damian Lillard, and Milwaukee traded, kind of a hefty price just to get him. And that's the thing about it is that you had Drew Holiday, who was a better fit, I guess. A guy that didn't really need the ball in his hands to be effective or anything like that. But then you traded him for Damian Lillard, and then now, you waive him, to stretch his money out. So now you're not left with a point guard that's going to complement, Giannis in any shape or form. So it's like you're left with it's like you're empty handed now.
Yeah.
So the fact of the matter is that, like I said, he's not happy about that. So could that be the final straw to say, you know what, it's time for me to go? I don't know. And I guess you could say that they made solid or okay deals. They brought back Bobby Portis, they brought back Torian Prince, they signed Gary Harris, but it's just
Jalen
more
Porter.
so, it's just more so just filling out the roster. But the fact of the matter is that even with this roster being fully healthy, this is not a team that's going to be a threat in the Eastern Conference. I think this team, at best, honestly, I think this is a first round as a team, second round at best. But it's not a team that's going to make it to the conference finals or, well, like I said, knock off a team like Cleveland or New York or even Orlando, and like I said, make it to the finals. So and not just to end it here, they
Mhm.
don't really have any, draft assets. They use it all up. So there's no way for them to improve the team, even without that. So it's a hard situation for Milwaukee, and we can debate, as far as other moves that may have been, panic moves or whatever, and really be honest with you, Milwaukee has always been this way to an extent,
Mhm.
because even during the times when they had, Mike Budenholzer as the head coach, they were never really a serious threat in the East. I mean, on paper, yes, but like I said, even though that they won the championship during the 2020-21 season, but they honestly could have been beaten in the first round against Brooklyn, because Brooklyn had control of that series to an extent, but of course other guys got hurt. But I'm just saying, Milwaukee throughout the years, they never been a real threat in the East. They always had struggle, but like I said, it's just gonna be hard for me to see Giannis stay with this team when they don't really have anything to label them as a real threat in the East. So they could convince him to stay, but I just don't see it happening. So I think that he's going to leave, and of course, if that does happen, then of course we get into that, and what our predictions will be as far as where he goes. But like I said, I just don't think he's going to stay. The Miles Turner acquisition was good, but it doesn't move the needle.
Got you, man. Great answer as always. Multi-layered and in depth. To end it for me, um, just wanted to end up with a little bit of the acquisitions I did like for the respective teams. Like I said, Luke Cornett went to the Spurs on a 4-year, $41 million deal. Duncan Robinson got another 45 million because they
Oh
thought he
yeah,
robbed Miami.
yep. And they stole Karis LeVert from us too. But I mean,
Yes,
hey,
they
it's all
did.
good.
Yes, they did. I forgot about that. They did pick up Karis LeVert. We were talking about Denver. They got Tim Hardaway Jr. That's a good pickup for
Hmm.
Denver on a 1-year deal. Um, yeah, man, it was a pretty decent free agency. Davion Mitchell got a deal this time around, 2 years, 24 million. He deserved it after what he did to the Hawks in season and in play the
Yeah.
play-in tournament. Of course, Kevon Looney left the Golden State Warriors to end of an era in the Bay for Kevon Looney. Joined the Pelicans for 2 years, $16 million. That lets you know that even though he was there for over a decade, they were still trying to lowball Kevin Looney, but they liked him so much that they did want to still keep him on the roster, as a veteran at that point. D'Angelo Russell has a new home in Dallas on a 2-year, $11 million deal. Gertrude Yabusele, who's still looking good from that 2024 Olympic run. Really happy for him because that put him on the map. Um, he was in the league before that, but gave up and went overseas and played for his national team. And now he can't get enough offers. Just signed a deal in the Big Apple, New York City, on a 2-year deal, 2-year, 11 million. Nicholas Batum. People keep cracking jokes on Nicholas Batum and shit like that, but he keeps a job. He's gonna be 38 years old when that deal with the Clippers is done. 2 years, $11 million.
Legend at the
Um,
bank.
That's what I'm saying. Like, they keep cracking jokes. He keeps a job, man. Batum keeps a job, most definitely. And just the last couple ones, like Bruce Brown went back to Denver. Um, Aaron Holiday, former Hawks in Houston. Eric Gordon, another guy who keeps a job, still in Philadelphia. Jeff Green keeps a job. He's in Houston. Yeah, man, Larry Nance Jr. left Hawks. Unfortunately, he went back to Cleveland, and there was one more. Tyus Jones, I think he'll flourish in Orlando better than Cole Anthony did. Um, Jake Laravia is going to the Lakers. So I thought it was a pretty decent free agency. Oh yeah, and Ty Jerome, one of my favorite role players personally, is going to the Memphis Grizzlies on a 3-year deal. Just always cool seeing the guys get paid that really deserve it. The guys are on 1-year deals with uncertainty. Now they have homes with 4-year, 3-year contracts, and really excited about next season. Not gonna lie, I am looking forward to it. And that's it for me. But the last thing I did want to say about this free agency, because I wanted to end it with the Hawks, of course, no other team. Um, you mentioned Giannis and where he could go.
Oh, I know
Everything
where you're going with this one.
everything the Hawks have done have put them in position, in my opinion, outside of Houston, to have the best package for Giannis Antetokounmpo in the league. Now, obviously, it's been a lot of hypotheticals going around the league, how the package would look and stuff like that. Off the rip, they're gonna ask for either Dyson or Jalen. If I had to estimate who it would be, I think it would be Jalen Johnson because he'd be their centerpiece moving forward. He is from the city of Milwaukee, Wisconsin, so they literally bring home a home product. Anytime the Hawks play him, he always gets cheers. So of course, he was super popular in high school. He did go to Duke, so he was super popular out of Wisconsin. Absolutely. So it'd be Jalen or Dyson. I think it'd be Jalen. That's who they asked for. It'd probably be a key piece, either Luke Kennard or Zachary Risachet. Someone who can come in and immediately make an impact. I think it'd be Risachet, given his age and his potential. So that's two players. And I think they're going to ask for like a role player, like a Kobe Buffkin, a Luke. Like that's where Luke Kennard comes in. So that's three players. And we know if they give Giannis, regardless of whatever they say, they're rebuilding. So they'll likely ask for the pick that we have in the 2026 NBA draft, which is the most favorable between the Pelicans and the Bucks. If that goes to Milwaukee, they'd want their pick back, obviously. So that four things. That's a current star, someone who could turn into a star, a piece that makes an impact immediately, and a pick that can be top 5 in a stacked draft. I think that would be the ideal package to bring in Giannis Antetokounmpo to the Atlanta Hawks. In the process, the Hawks would keep Dyson, the future star, alongside Trey, while bringing in a solidified superstar and Giannis Antetokounmpo, who is only 31 years old and ended the season averaging 31 points with 10 rebounds, not like 11 boards and 10.1 assists per game. So not like you won't see it on his numbers, but that was like his like last 10 games it accumulated. He was playing amazing before they got eliminated by the Indiana Pacers, who went to the finals after that. So yeah, I just wanted to say that. Outside of the Rockets, I do unbiasedly say that the Atlanta Hawks have the best package for Giannis Antetokounmpo in the entire league. Outside of Houston, of course, who could offer Amen Thompson and all these dudes. You know, they have a lot they could offer to Milwaukee. So in terms of another Eastern Conference team, the Hawks are the number one contenders. Even DraftKings Sportsbook came out and said the Hawks were the plus 600 favorites to get Giannis Antetokounmpo if he does decide to leave his drafted team this summer. So just had to put that out there. The beauty of that whole situation is that the Hawks stay good regardless. You feel me? Even if we want to keep Jalen Johnson and Zachary and Dyson, our core players are going to be great when they develop. And the beauty of it, all we did was accelerate the Hawks' pace with these trades. It's going to make the team better with solidified players in the NBA. Wow. It's like they're gonna help us play good now. Wow, our young stars like Zachary, like Dyson, while they mature. By the time it stops, like if we do good and we show some promise and he wants to stay in Atlanta, he likes the lemon pepper rings, this and that. If we extend him another 2-3 seasons and make him a real Hawk, and we extend Luke Kennard, so this is really our roster now. Like by the time Kristaps retires, you feel me? Obviously, Dyson Daniels would be like an incredible level at that point. You feel me? And I get it. Dudes can make all these fucking jokes all they want. We're in their faces now. You feel me? Like I told you, whether we make that trade or if we don't, we're good regardless. All these players were drafted. Only one that wasn't was Dyson, and we got him on his contract. So and that's it from me on episode 80 of the Uncommon Commentators. Discussed free agency, the draft, and the new champions of the National Basketball Association. So want to give a shout out to my boys Garrett and Wiley. As always, love doing this show with y'all. Most definitely. And that's it from me, man. Unless you got any closing sentiments you did want to say.
Yeah, like I said, these past 2 weeks have been crazy with the NBA Finals and the draft and free agency. So it's been kind of quiet over the past couple of days. But hopefully that something will spark to give it another some more excitement. So deals are still going around, but hopefully maybe we get bigger news on the Giannis front or anything else. There's still other players that have not been, signed, such as, Josh Giddey, who's a restricted free agent, Jonathan Kuminga, Al Horford and other guys. So of course we'll be on the lookout for that. But as always, thank you guys for tuning in to the show. Make sure you comment, like, subscribe, and like I said, we appreciate you guys your support and everything that you do. So thank you guys again. Then we'll catch you guys on the next run.
God bless you all. Have a good night. Happy 4th of July.